welcome. I'm delighted to see this very good group here for this very exciting event that we have today. It is my honor and great pleasure to introduce Yoko Tawada and Slaymaker to you today. Yoko Tawada, for me, is one of the most interesting authors writing in the world today. And as you know from the program, she has been living for some time in Berlin, writes her many books equally in German or in Japanese. She's talked about how different it is to write in those two languages. And she's a great writer who thinks very deeply about both being local in these different places and being global, thinking about the languages, the scripts, what disappears as Japanese crosses the Pacific or as German crosses the Atlantic. She talks about often writing about the Zwischenwelt or between worlds that she's often in. This is one example of the subtlety of her work on issues of translation and cultural translation. One of my favorite of her dozens of books, the ones I can read in German, is Übersetzungen, fantastic work, which sounds like the word for translation in German, Übersetzungen. But if you look, you see instead of a T in the middle, there's two E's, Übersetzungen, which means either overseas tongues, Übersetzungen, or possibly Übersetzungen, or possibly about Setzungen, which is a kind of fish. So three different meanings at once. Her heroine here, who may or may not be Yoko Tawada herself, is oscillating between Germany, Japan, particularly MIT in Cambridge, and also South Africa, where she starts to learn Afrikaans. All these sort of lost and vanished and newfound cultures. So quite an extraordinary writer altogether. Just one quote from an essay of hers on literary exiles. She wrote, I am astride two languages and cultures. Exile is an immense force for liberation, for extra distance, for automatically developing contrasting structures in one's head. Not just syntactic and lexical, but social and psychological. It is, in other words, undoubtedly leaping forth. But there is a price to pay. The distance can become too great. The loss of identity as writer in the alien society can be burdensome. The new language can feel more and more remote. So one has to fight all that as an extra effort. Though that effort can also result in escaping the familiar phrase, the expected word, simply because it no longer comes into one's head. So even here, there is an advantage. We have a double advantage here that our master of ceremonies, Doug Slaymaker of the University of Texas, who is one of the great Tawada experts, proponents, who's edited a collection of essays, critical essays on her work, and continues to do more work today. So I'm delighted to present to you Yoko Tawada.
Good afternoon. I arrived in Tokyo last week and I was very shocked because it is so hot. I cannot imagine that I was born in this hot country. I begin with the text about Shirabyoshi. Shirabyoshi was a dancer looked like this from the 12th century. I'd been invited to Bergamo, Italy, to speak on the topic emotion. I thought it would be a shame if my talk didn't have any Italian sound in it. But how could I do? I don't speak Italian. Then it occurred to me that I'd learned some Italian words in my music lessons to be able to understand the notes. Most of these words had to do with speed, accelerando, or volume, pianissimo. There are even some that indicated an emotion, for example, piangendo, lamento, or triste, sad. Maybe I could find enough words in a dictionary of musical terms to cover all the emotions in my text. I like the idea of speaking about feelings in a language I'd never learned. Feelings speak a different language than we do. Feelings cannot be artificially produced, but they can be artistically represented by changing the tempo and volume. It's good to be able to speak a language, but not being able to speak a language ought to have advantages as well. In the 12th century Japan, when overripe court culture was beginning to rot in its own bittersweet perfume, and it became necessary to abandon the main stage of politics to the professional fighters, the samurais, a new sort of dance arose that was known as shirabyoshi. The representative of this new dance were women dressed as men with a sword at the hip. Perhaps it was a leftover of the shamanic tradition in which a change of gender was understood as a sign that the person in question had come in contact with the god. The transition from the old rituals to dance was fluid, so shirabyoshi was not a religious dance. At that time, the Japanese capital, Kyoto, was home to two sisters, Gyo and Inyo, who were celebrated as young, talented shirabyoshi dancers. The older sister, Gyo, soon became the concubine of Kiyomori, the most powerful samurai of the day, who saw dance as an indispensable part of life. Thanks to her older sister, the younger sister, Inyo, also enjoyed great repute among her colleagues, though at times it was mixed with cold-wet envy. Kiyomori provided Gyo with a villa in Kyoto so that her family could live there, though she herself spent most of her time with him at his residence. Her mother, who had eaten bitter rice long enough after the death of her husband, rejoiced at the carefree life she was able to lead in the elegant villa. Each month, the family received 180,000 liters of rice and a heap of gold coins. 平清盛、重々しくマエストーソ、インペリオーソ、雄大な空、グランディオーソ。4つの海を支配し、怖いものなしやりたい放題。世間のそしりも顧みず、いつも気まぐれカプリチョーソ。欲望もりもり非常識。欲しいものは何でも欲しい。欲しい時に欲しい。捨てたいものは何でも捨てる。捨てたい時に捨てる。姉と妹、義王と義女、白拍子の踊り子の姉妹が京の都で評判になっている。清盛は姉の義王に恋をして熱く熱くアッパシオナートを寵愛するファボーレファボーレ。One day, another dancer appeared in the capital, attracting all the city dwellers' attention. She was 16 years old, came from the Kaga region, and was called Hotoke. You couldn't tell if it was her talent or her youthful beauty that made her whole being so radiant. She loved herself because her audience loved her. Even the wind always blew in a way that favored her, so she had not yet experienced a single defeat. One day she thought, I have made a name for myself as a shirabyoshi dancer, but Kiyomori, the most powerful man of our time, has not once invited me to perform for him. Today, I shall invite myself to his home in accordance with street artist customs. Hotoke set out of Nishihachijo, where Kiyomori had his residence. 3年後、舞踏会の天空に現れた新しい星。年は16、名前は仏、自信満々、私が一番とは言うものの、まだ清盛様の前で踊ったことがない。お呼びがないならこちらから押しかけましょう。 仏は大胆、アニモーサメンテン、西八条の清盛の御殿に向かう、恐れを知らず元気満々、コンネネルシア、仏は若くて向こう向つ。When Kiyomori heard there was a dancer who wanted to see him, and that she was already standing at the gate, he was seized with fury. Someone who enjoys too much power as he did can easily be taken aback. He said to his concubine Gyo, whom he had come to prize not only as a dancer, but also as a conversation partner and advisor. This girl has invited herself to my home. What outrageous impertinence! Artists should appear only when I send for them. Besides, all dancers are going compared to you. Send a conceited creature home. She should consider herself fortunate to be sent away without punishment. Meanwhile, Hotoke had crept into the courtyard and was listening at the door. Kiyomori's hard words injured her pride. She wanted to leave, but then overheard the words Gyo was saying to Kiyomori. I know the customs of the street artists. They visit the court without an invitation to show their art. They are free in their behavior, and the only rule that governs them is that of gravity. Hotoke is still very young and inexperienced. If she wants to visit you, this is because of her reverence for you, not out of contempt. You shouldn't punish her with poisoned words. 清盛、勝手に押しかけてきた仏のずうずうしさにイライラ怒り、イーラ、怒り、イーラ、怒ってラッピア、腹を立てるが、技王が取りなす。芸術家は呼ばれなくても芸を見せに来るものです。しかも、この子は若くて純粋、インノチェンテ、追い返すもんじゃありません。清盛 grew calm again and said, Very well, let the girl come in and dance for us. Set up the stage. In those days, wealthy samurais had dance stages in their homes. For them, dance was not only a matter of aesthetic pleasure, but also an archive of knowledge, crucial for survival. Dance was a record of the body positions and movements from which fighting techniques were derived, and a source of new ones. Complex knowledge that could not be notated on the paper was inscribed in the dancing body, and this was an excellent method since even if video cameras had existed in the 12th century, it wouldn't have been possible to film every view of every muscles and bone for every moment, and to preserve these shots in such a way as to make them useful in real life. Hotoke stepped on stage and let her body glide slowly. Kiyomori's gaze fluttered about nervously in the air. In the end, landing like an exhausted butterfly upon the dancer's skin. Kiyomori was unable to move. He felt powerless, faced with this young woman who had effortlessly placed herself front and center. Standing still, she appeared mobile and radiated place when she was rapidly in motion. Her silken hair tickled the servant's heart from the inside. He could breathe only with difficulty, as though his chest was tightly laced. He felt so constricted that he was suddenly forced to get to his feet. He could not bear it for another second, and the dancer did not belong to him. 仏は屋敷に上がってすぐに 数ビートをすぐにトスと踊り出す。初めは静かにカルマート、だんだん早くアッチェルランド、優雅にグランディオーソ、そして華やかにブリルランテ。清盛は目が離せない。仏を慈しむ心が芽生え、燃え上がる火のように、コンフォーコ、熱狂的にパッショナータメンテ。And so on. I read this text also in Italy, and some Italian people say there are words that they don't know. So I don't know. I picked them up from my Japanese dictionary of music terms. Okay. And the next text is this one. This is, you don't have to understand it. It is a kind of visual art and express feeling of mixed culture and transformation of letters. And yeah, as you know, we write Japanese. When we write Japanese, we mix Japanese phonetic letters and Chinese ideograms. And to explain it to German people, I made this text. You know, if Germans would use Chinese characters as Japanese, the German text could seem like this. And this is a absolutely normal German text, but written not only by alphabet, but also by Chinese characters. And you can read it totally normal in German. I read. Die Furcht des Monds. Ich sank auf der Toilette, da kam der Mond herangerollt. Nackt auf einem Fahrrad. Er hatte den Weg mitten durch den Metaphernpark genommen, um mich zu treffen. Draußen die Straße entlang spazierte zähneputzend eine schöne Frau. Auf der Bank im Park trank ein Mann in Umstandskleidung Apfelsaft. Am Ende eines Jahrhunderts ist die Gesundheit angesagt. Im Himmel klafft ein Loch, die mondgestaltige Angst, der mondgestaltige Kummer sind weg, alles Gestaltige flattert munter um das Loch herum. Die Falte des Abgrunds glättet sich. Auf der glatten Oberfläche der Sorge treten die Dichter auf Schlittschuhen am Mondmaler neben mir. Maybe there are not many people who can read this text. You must know German and you must know Chinese characters. And if you are interested in the meaning of this poem, this is an English translation. I don't know if you have heard about the Surface translation. It is an acoustic translation, and Ernst Jandl, Vienna poet, did it very often. And he translated English poems into German, but not the meaning, but the sound of the language. And this is a poem by Wordsworth. Maybe you know that. And he just puts the German words, and it sounds like a kind of dialect of English. You know? My heart lieb Zapfen ei behold, ihr Empoor in the sky. So was sieht, wenn man läuft, begehen, so es sieht nahe immer mehr. So wie wenn Erschel grollt, Ohrleck mit Ei. Sehr steil dies Vater rosse Mähne, im Teig kurz wisch mai Gesto Bier. Baum, Deutsche Deutsch, Bajonett Schur Alp, Eiertier. And I asked Google Translate to translate this German text into English.
You want me to read this?
Yeah, please. You can read it better. I can't.
Okay. Is this one on?
Wait, it's on.
Yeah. I'm Doug Slaymaker, University of Kentucky. I'm out of my league up here. She threatened to make me read this, and I said, I can't read it. It doesn't make sense, but it's too late now, isn't it? So, may hug, sweetie hold, he's drilling in Lake Quay. So what does it, no, that's not right. What does see if May is going to commit? So it looks like MMOs. So we have to ask rats, here liquid egg. See this fattening steed mowing steeply. In dough worms may be more beer. Cheery German bayonet shearing incubus egg animal.
So I did a similar thing between German and Japanese. And kotoba means words, and this poem is, and I wrote one poem in Japanese and translated it acoustically into German. And I need, can somebody read the German for me? Is somebody here who can speak German? Please come to me.
Take turns, we'll read it together.
Yeah? Yeah, together. Okay. Go, okay.今伝えてください。
Okay.
Okay. 言葉
Code war.
口の中から
Kutsche, Normnagel, Kakao, Rad.
飛び出す
Topf das.
椿と一緒に
Dabei treu ich schon nie.
花咲く
Hahn, na, Sack.
咲く
Sack.
口が裂ける
Kutsche, gar sagt. Er und
咲き乱れる
Sargrinidalen.
転がり出る
Köln, gar der.
単語
Tango.
遠くまで
Türklingelmade.
止まらない
Tunnelmade, nein.
一度
Ich, du.
動き出したら
Hugo, Kinder starben im Tal.
言葉
Code war.
翻る
Hildegard Roth.
誰のもの
Da rennt Mond.
でもない
Des Mondsturms, nein.
When I came to Europe, I carried some burning questions in my travel bag. Will I become another person if I speak another language? Does a little sea horse look different if it is no longer is called Tatsuno Toshigo, the lost child of the dragon, but rather the little horse from the sea? Will I no longer cook rice but eat it uncooked if there is only one word, rice, for cooked rice, gohan, as well as uncooked rice, kome? Do I always have to cook chunky soup if I am no longer supposed to say to drink soup, but to eat soup? Do I have twice as much time after work if there are two words for the same space of time, evening and night? In the evening, one can go to the theater, and during the night, one can sleep. In Japanese, there is only one word, yoru, for evening as well as for night. Therefore, one does not sleep enough. Will I study with more self-confidence if homework is considered work, just like all other work in this society? Can one, in good confidence, took years writing a paper? In Japanese, unfortunately, whatever belongs to the realm of learning, benkyo, does not belong to the realm of work, shigoto. I've been living in Germany for 36 years now.
Have you become a different person? I'm asked. Are you a different person when you speak German? I'm asked. These questions are not easily answered. If a person were to acquire an additional personality when learning an additional language, someone who speaks 5 languages would possess 5 personalities. Should this person look like a country fair with 5 different booths? I don't have a single booth. I am similar to a web. The structure of a web gets denser when new traits are incorporated. In this way, a new pattern is formed. There are more and more knots, tight and loose spots, irregularities, unincorporated corners, edges, holes, or superimposed layers. This web, which can catch tiny planktons, I will call a multilingual web. So, can I ask you to come to me and ask me some questions?
Yes,
Yeah?
you can. So this is Tawada-san's idea that she'll read for a bit, and then for 10 minutes or so, we'll have a conversation. She'll do some more reading, some more conversation, and we'll put some questions for everybody. I think a lot of what's going to happen is translations, words, personalities, all these sorts of things, right? And I'm a big fan of the last thing you just read, the writing in the web of words, the web of relations, all the interconnectedness between words and languages and places. I think that's one reason there's so many masks in Tawada Yoko's writings. It makes me feel like a turkey, because turkey in Japanese is a shichimento. It's a bird with 7 faces. Right, so it feels like it's got, if she's talking about being all these booths at a country fair, we've got all these different things. It seems like it ought to work. I don't know. I haven't seen it in her work yet. But I wanted to ask about that sort of thing, right? Maybe it's just sort of the schizoid thing, or personality, multifaceted aspects of this. But can you say more about this, the personality and language and translation? I realized that wasn't a question.
Okay, so Turkey has 7 faces.
Yes.
And I think I have even more, because the face is to me not something that expresses my identity, but it is something between 2 persons. You know, my face does not belong to me, because when I see someone who I hate, my face closed. I cannot control it. Or I have too big respect, and maybe my face become distorted or something. That is not my face, and this is the in-between place. And in Japan or in Buddhism, there are many canon figures who have many faces. It's not negative in the culture that you have many faces, but in the Christianity, Jesus has never 2 faces, right? But who has many faces in the Christianity?
No. Anybody know?
Devils and dragons, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's Janice. That's the thing, the two-faced. It wasn't covered.
Yeah.
So I'm also thinking faces and facets and dimensions or walls and this sort of thing too, right? Different ways that we can look out into the world. And some of your characters have that sort of thing goes as well.
Yeah. But it's not a mask, you know? Sometimes people say Japanese people have a mask on the face. It's not my image of the face, but the face itself can change. It is not a mask, but the face shows many expressions. It depends on with whom you speak. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Can I ask you a different question?
No, yes.
So I wanted to ask you, well, no, let me go back to the first one, Shirabyoshi, the first thing you read, which is one of my favorites. I love this work, and it's very funny, and it's funnier if you know some Japanese. But I was thinking about translation, doing things in different words. Have you ever translated it into dance? You should dance Shirabyoshi. Have you ever done that? You do the Shirabyoshi, put the sword on it. What do you think about that?
I'm thinking about dancing poems, and I just began to put the letters in like the dancers or choreography.
Okay.
So it will become the dancing poems, but, or my translation of the poems into dance.
Perfect. That would be. Because I'm thinking the translation in not just from languages to languages, but words into other characters, or language or poems into dance, or a lot of what you do feels like sculpture almost, or in a lot of the imagery, there's words that say solid things that trip over.
Yeah, because the language is, of course, not only the meaning, but it's a movement, the figures, and it's near to the dance, so I can imagine the language as a dance language. It is independent from any national language, but it's just a movement.
And visual, right? Not just oral, but visual as well. I want to ask a little more about the surface translation thing, because I don't quite understand it totally yet, but I find it hilarious. But I also want to know, are there people in Japanese who've done this sort of thing, or have that kind of, there must be, do you know who they are? So we were talking about earlier, there's this writer, I don't know what his actual name is, his pen name is Edogawa Rampo. Right? And if you know Japanese, it's supposed to sound like Edgar Allan Poe. That's who he's thinking about. So that's one that comes to mind. Do you know other people doing this in Japanese, or do you think about it in the Japanese tradition when you're doing surface translation?
No, not in the history of the literature. But maybe as a joke or to learn English, when Japanese people pronounce I get off, listen, I get off, so no American understand it. But to pronounce it better, there is a age tofu. Age tofu is a fried tofu. But when we say age tofu, it's the chance is better to be understood.
How many people have heard, if you're going to learn the Japanese doi tashimashite, you need to say, don't touch my mustache? It sounds like the same thing.
Yeah. So it's a kind of surface translation.
Yeah. I think there's surrealist poets who are doing this kind of thing as well, that I was also thinking about. So more about translation. How does translation work in your practice? I mean, because you write in different languages.
Yes, and I try to not to translate any text, because it's not a good idea that the author translate his own text. When I translate my own text, I often have I want to change the text, because I think, I wrote it in Japanese in this way, but in German I like it other way, other characters, other stories, so I can change everything. It's no translation that destroy the text. And so I write my German text in German and Japanese text in Japanese, and in English translation or in French they can come together in one book, right?
But often they come out at the same time. Like the German and Japanese, it looks like they're being written at the same time. Is that different? Is that not what's happening?
Don't know. I'm always writing German text and Japanese text at the same time, but they are quite different. Yeah. But still they have no connection. I think as author that they have no connection, but still they begin to communicate each other. So there is always connection. Parallel. It's no parallel word. It's they are crossing without my control. Yeah.
One more question, and I'll hear some more from you. Also in Shirabyoshi, the first thing you said, you talked about liking the idea of speaking and feeling in a language you've never learned. Now, can you say more about that? Speaking or thinking or dreaming or living maybe in languages you've never learned?
I think each language is at the same time many languages. That means, for example, in Japan, also in Europe, you say yogurt and never think that this is a Turkish word, right? So the culture is always mixed and the language is always mixed. And the not learned, it means to make aware of that you are speaking the languages always that you have never learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do it all the time.
Yeah.
In other
Yeah,
words.
yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The character for person looks so sparse, no brain, no shoes to wear. If it just had hands, it could light a fire, but it cannot create light or warmth on its own. What can a person who does nothing to do stand on the sand and gaze at the sea like the white rabbit at Inaba? His skin might be turned off by a crocodile. He might be thrown on a pile of firewood to be burned at the stake. Society seeks an unending supply of human sacrifice. They say the energy released as a body burns is clean and natural. Does the character for person look like it is walking, or does it seem to stand transfixed? The character stretches straight up the length of its spine. At some point, it will strike the softness of the clouds. It shows the moment it thinks. There is no need to go any higher, and then people become trees. Plum trees with crooked spines and covered in bumps. They say plants are in mammalian forms. They make cultures of color and form from only light, water, and carbon dioxide. They do not eat unsensibly. That is the reason they can live. Without excreting or smelling waste from the entrance, instead of building houses, they give their own bodies as homes. To the caterpillars, to the woodpeckers, to the squirrels. Water. If ascending to the heavens is the job of a pilot, then falling from the heavens is the job of an angel. Water too is a band of good angels that falls and falls from the stitches of the clouds. Stuck on the shoulder, they belt down onto the wet mirror of the highway and smash into spray. The road collects the drops and becomes a rushing river, which eventually becomes a large serpent that twists and turns, covering away the shores of people's land, carrying earth and sand. It carves away, leaving the face on the earth in relief. Rise. A pair of stars fills her bowl, the tips of the sharp ray of light sweetly sting the mouth of the ones who eat it. A refreshing breeze flows in behind their eyes. What looked like a spot on the wall is now 7 mosquitoes, the hair of their legs clearly visible. They say eating starlight allows one to see into the distance. 30 kilometers away, a small child is visible, nose bleeding as it plays with a crab. 3 years away, the window of an unmanned bank is visible as it blows in the wind, banging open and shut. Dog. A single man squats on the precipice. His left hand grabs the head of his dog flat as a plate. He sticks out his right hand and lets it gently bite. He gazes at his palm, slick with saliva, takes off the dog's collar, replaces it with a chain of flowers. Suddenly, he embraces it, presses his cheek against the dog's eye. The tears well up. He embraces the dog's head firmly with both arms and then pushes the dog into the bubbling lava of the volcanoes below. Large. They say the character beauty means large sheep. They say the larger the living sacrifice, the less the misfortune. Even a small wind will soon blend the sparkles of a big umbrella. They say that in prison people die in the order of their height. Big people eat small people. Big countries hate small countries. Big mice respect small elephants. Sick. A time will come when dawn will melt into dusk. Warmth will meet the same as cold. Walk slowly, and the station will feel nearer. A single cracker will fill our stomachs. And at the moment one wants to stop writing, a poem appears on the page. It is still possible to speak now to those not yet dead. Inside my stomach are entrails I have still not touched. Someone I have not yet met consoles me for a crushing sorrow I have not yet felt. The language I use at the moment is one I have not yet started to learn. The poems I have not yet written are already written. I hope that the other creatures that I cannot yet imagine that will inhabit the earth far into the future will be far happier than us. End. At the end of the sleeve is a sensitive hand. At the end of the hem is a delicate yet strong ankle. At the end of thought is breath. I rise 1 foot like a crane. I spread out my left hand, holding a fan like a wing, and I transform from woman into a bird, from bird to a letter. Come. I do not know where you stand. Is it the place where I once stood long ago? I hear a voice calling me, but I want to return only to places I have never been. This is not Chinese character. Can I ask you?
Can I say no?
No, you cannot say no. You start.
On Tuesdays, I like to eat my father. He tastes
Dienstags
of
esse
venison.
ich gerne meinen
Red
Vater.
dough is what he's made of.
Schmeckt nach
I
Hirsch.
know he's really a
Ist
woman.
aus Brotteig
But you
gemacht.
can't say
Ich
this
weiß,
to his
dass in
face, or his
Wirklichkeit
eyes will
eine
turn
Frau
hollow.
ist.
When
Man
the
darf
fire is
ihm
hot
das
and
aber
the sun
nicht
goes
sagen,
down,
sonst
his
werden
dead brother
seine
whispers in
Augen
his
hoch.
ear, "You're a
Wenn der
woman."
Herd heiß wird
In the bed
und
lies
die
my
Sonne
father.
untergeht,
Can't
flüstert ihm sein
possibly be
toter
here.
Bruder ins Ohr,
His belly-
du bist doch eine Frau. Aus Brotteig ist er gemacht. In dem Bett liegt mein Vater, der hier nicht sein kann. Sein Bauch ist weich und warm. In seinem Bauch schläft meine Mutter.
It is
Ich
soft
musste
and warm.
doch
In his
lange
belly, my
warten,
mother
bis sie
sleeps.
geboren wird.
I'd have
Denn
to
er
wait
will
a
sie
long
noch
time
nicht
for
gehen
her to
lassen.
be born.
Sonst muss ich an
He
seinem
doesn't
Bauch
want to let
weiter
her go
essen,
yet.
bis ich sie erreiche.
Otherwise,
Ich stehe
I'll have
im
to
Garten
keep
und
eating
frage
away
den
his belly
Apfelbaum,
until I
was
reach
mit
it.
ihr passieren
I
wird.
stand in the
Ich höre,
garden
wie
and
zwei
ask the
Menschen
apple tree
zusammen
where it
atmen.
comes from.
Einer
I can hear
schläft
two
im Bauch
people
des
breathing in
anderen. Der
unison.
Bauch ist aus
One
Brotteig
sleeps in the
gemacht.
other's
Ich habe
belly.
keinen
The
Hunger.
belly is
Ich
made
muss
of red
nicht
dough.
Hunger
I'm
haben,
not
um
hungry.
das
I
Brot
don't have to be
essen zu
hungry to
wollen.
want to
Es
eat
ist
bread.
dunkel und
It is
die
dark
Laterne
now,
wirft
and the
den
lantern
Schatten
casts
eines
the
Jägers.
shadow of a
Wenn
hunter.
es mein
If it
Vater
is my
ist,
father,
werde ich
I
ihn
will
töten,
kill him
bevor er
before
die
he
Schlafende
can shoot the
schießt.
sleeping woman. It
Es
is my
ist mein
father.
Vater. Ich habe kein Gewehr.
I have no gun. He
Er
gets the
schreit
cry
und
and
fällt.
falls. A fatal
Tief in
bullet is
seinem Bauch
embedded in his
steckt
belly
eine
as proof of
Todeskugel als
his
Beweis
murder.
für den
I
Mord.
didn't do
Ich habe
it.
nichts getan.
From his
Aus dem
belly,
Bauch starren
two
zwei
reason eyes
Rosinenaugen.
peer out. Two
Zwei
people are
Menschen
dead,
sind tot
and
und
the
der
third
dritte
survives.
überlebt. So there are some poets in Europe who write multilingual poetry. And for example, Heike Fiedler, she is a German living in the French-speaking Switzerland, and she's not just a multilingual poet, but her performance is about voices, body, and spaces. And I also think when I do the collaboration with music, the language becomes automatically multilingual. It is natural to use more languages. And this is one example, a poem by Heike Fiedler. And when she reads it, it's very beautiful. It's like music. When I try it, it's just an exercise. No? Not yet, not jetzt, not now, not here, not da, not nicht, noch am. Ich bin noch hier, not jetzt, ich nicht noch. Now, pa, jetzt, pa, la, and so on. So you must activate many places in your brain at the same time. And this one is another, Sia Rin, comes from Finland, Swedish speaking Finland and living in Berlin. And she reads also very beautifully, so I cannot do that, but I can show this. Ceci n'est pas un Pip, Ceci ist kein Pip oder was ist keine Pfeife nicht, da pfeife ich drauf. Pip oder nicht, Pip, pa, Pipe, pa, pipapo, and so on. But most of them mix the European languages, and I, of course, I mix Japanese language and also letters. The world literature, the word, a word, I'm bored, a mother, I'm maud. When I speak, I'm not there, a word in its cage, arrested, spits a report about my crimes. about my card. No word, only its shadow, in which I rest. My shadow disappears in it. Nothing is judged when I am silent. I am made of the same material as you. Material time between one word and a sip of water. Where the voice awakes in the flesh. You hear without ears a word liberated from its duty, a word written directly on the eardrum. The drum falls soundless, voiced, a word, ein Wort, a place, ein Ort. I recognize that the world is made by only 5 letters, but there are 26 letters in alphabet. So the rest of the letters are bigger than the world. And the question is, do I really know the world literature? I tried to check alphabetically if I know the literature of the world. And I asked me, do I know any writer from Afghanistan? No. Any writer from Albania? No. Algeria? Maybe Camus, but he's dead. He died 1960 when I was born. And Andorra? No. Angola? No. Argentina? No. Armenia, Australia, Caribbean, but not more. Do I have authors from Austria? Yes. And some of them are dead, but most of them are living. And I have met them, and I read them, and I talked to them. Elfriede Zürder, Ilse Eichinger, H.C. Artmann, Ingeborg Bachmann, Thomas Bernhard, Hans Eichhorn, Leopold Federmeier, Franz Vogel, Barbara Frischmuth, Arno Geiger, Elfriede Gerster, Helga Branchnik, Ansel Glück, Peter Handke, and so on. And I'm sure that I forget 5 or 6 authors. So most of us know only one small part of the world, or 2 or 3 maybe, but it is not the world. The last poem of this part is Hamlet no Sea. And now you are in Japan, and Japan is like the place where Hamlet once stand. Behind you there are mountains, and in front of you the ocean. You have no place. And the question is to be or not to be, but in this poem the question is to eat or not to eat the vegetables from Fukushima. To be, 飛べ To be, 飛べトンビ、飛べトンビ、飛び、飛ぶべきか飛ばないべきか To be、それとも or not to be、それは問題か食えと言われても食えない、それが問題、クエスチョン。福島のマッシュルームと書いてある。食えたら食ってあげたい。召し上がってくれよ。食べるな、ないんだ。クエクエスチョン。食べられるのか。福島のトマト、福島のキャベツ、福島の大根ですと書いてある。八百屋のマジックペンでクエズクエスチョン That is a question whether 安全か危険か危険だけど健康いいえ安全だけど病気にはなる調べたから安全です数字で書く安全目の中の血管の赤信号ピカッピカッ意識の中に in the mind 含まれた苦悩サファーシェイクスピアが途切れに聞こえてくる海の向こうから汚れた海の向こうからなぜ海を敵に回すのか死を海に垂れ流す死ぬのは死なないのは死 Against the sea of troubles 福島の to die to sleep no more and by a sleep to say we end 海の言語がわからないもう息が はできないと言っているのか、それともまだ還元できると言っているのか。海と話をすることができたなら、and the thousand 千代にや千代に、これから苦しむナチュラルショックス、自然には還元されないショック、耳を澄まして聞き取れる言語だけでも波の間から集めて書き留めて to die to sleep 眠らないでquestion of シェイクスピア。
So especially at a time like this, the readings you're doing today, it's like Tawada Yoko's world has these words that like they must be piled thick with stuff all over the place. Like the words are blocks or something. Do you feel like you trip over words or things? Or are they like that in your world? What do you think?
I think nothing. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking in terms of poems as sculpture. I'm still going back to this, taking words as overly literal. When you did the characters earlier, pulling them apart and almost taking them too literally, working on them out that way in the ways that words is, again, sculpture or as concrete things. A lot of your works have literally characters who are tripping over words as though they were bricks in the road or tongues that are in the way of things.
Yeah. Because literature is also the art, visual art, and also the music. So they are the surface of the literature, the sound and the letters. And they are also in normal novels, they are very important, I think. But in these poems, I want to present this face, the surface of the literature. And as even if you don't understand the language, there are possibility to have access to them. And this is also even if you understand the meaning, it is still important, and you don't have to forget that structure of the.
So maybe that's why I'm stuck on this idea of language is sculpture. Or it's another kind of translation. Right? Even if I don't understand the words, I can follow it as music or rhythm or something like that. So that's going to be part of it.
Yes, because the language is also not in the paper or in the author, but in the brain of the reader. And it is, you must realize it in your brain or make the images or sound or something. You must create something in your brain. Without there is no literature.
Does each person have their own world of literature? Each person has their own language, right? We were thinking about that earlier. There's almost as many languages as people. Thinking about the world literature piece. Almost a sense if we all went through and did our own list, we each have our own world literature.
There is no big world literature, but each of us has some literatures, and it is important that you have more, two or more. But even one national literature has many literatures in it, so maybe one literature is enough to have world literature, and 100 literatures are not enough to talk about the world literature.
So one is our problem. It's not everything about one we get stuck, so that's our problem, not multiple things. Makes sense to me. Another comment about the Hamagnosi that's interesting to me is doing these kinds of poetry, borrowing lines from other places, makes me think of our friend Suga Keiichiro, who wrote a whole poem, all of lines from IWL Summer, for example. Where you're taking them out and constructing things this way, and moving it around, and putting the works together in different ways. How does that process work? You start with sounds, you're starting with an idea, you're starting with...
In this case, I was in Victoria in Canada, the end of 2011, I think, and I wanted to write about Fukushima, a poem, and read it, but nobody understood Japanese. Nobody is not true. There are some people of Japanese studies, but still I wanted to create my poem in dialogue with some English-speaking writer, and it was Shakespeare. He didn't know that, but I contacted him. But it's a dialogue, a kind of conversation with another writer, you know. And I took his sentences and changed them, or eat them, or not eat them, and made this text that is some Japanese words. Kue, for example, means eat, but it continues to the English word question. You know, the kue, because eat or not eat is a question. So kue and question, it is not an academic connection between two words, but I was looking for my personal connection to the words that was there. Yeah.
There's also an interesting play on register in that, because kue is not the way we usually politely say eat something, right? In contrast to the question and all the other things that are going on. There's a real something powerful about that.
Yes, yeah.
So then I have another question, or another kind of question. Because you write in Japanese and in German, perform in English. What does German do better than Japanese? Or what does Japanese do that you can't do in German? Or what kind of things can you do in one language you can't do in another? What are they better at?
I don't think that one language can something better than another language, but when I write in German, all German words are used by German writers, so I'm in context of that history of German languages. Also, very simple words like Zeug, for example. Zeug means stuff, and Spielzeug is a children's toy. A Nähzeug is a sewing kit, you know. But very important word, Zeug. But it is also the term that is was important for Heidegger, and also Zeug and Zeug, Benjamin. So you are in context of all these Japanese German histories, but you are not alone, you know. That's a fascinating thing. If you write German, you have the direct contact with all authors who wrote in German. And the Japanese, I cannot compare Japanese with other languages because it is my mother tongue. That means Japanese is to me like the body, and all ideas, even the German ideas, come from my Japanese language maybe, and go back to the Japanese language. But the new ideas I got in the German language or English come back to my Japanese language and change my Japanese language. So it is like a basement station, the Japanese language, and I can do many things with that language too, but the important thing is that I have that place.
That's interesting, because I guess that's a question I was going to ask you actually, because I don't know German, but I have this sense that the German writers are behind you and pushing on you and you're pulling from them and in conversation with them, but I don't get the same sense in Japanese. I know I have a sense of German writers that you are interested in and pulling from and done similar kind of projects. Are there Japanese writers who are doing these kind of word projects or things that you think about, or whose writing styles have influenced your writing in Japanese?
For example, Junichiro Tanizaki, I don't write like he, but his idea of he read many European literatures, right? And think about the grammar and the language of European literatures, and then came back to Japanese literature or language, and to make the sentences that is very Japanese, but it's fake. And also he also wrote in the East Japanese Kansai弁ってなんていうの
Kansai dialect?
Yeah, Kansai dialect style, yeah, like in Kyoto, Osaka, mostly Osaka. But he was not born in Osaka. He just imitated it, and so his idea of not looking for the roots, but studying something foreign to create the fake own culture. That's my Tanizaki idea.
That's almost a different kind of language.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Let's do the next reading.
Okay, the last reading. You have the English translation, but also Japanese original is not to understand, so don't care if you don't understand the English translation. 人身事故。でん、電子やで電車が止まります。人身事故、妊娠事故。降りるときには、降ろすときには、人身、二身の缶詰のように並んだ線路に沿ってゴロゴロ並んだ二身の死体。したくない、あれしたくない、これもしたくない、したいの、したくないよ、心配事さえない。心身の健康、精神の健康宿る、生死宿る、心身しみる、死体の腐敗、心身、雪が死体に降りかかる。事故の処理、自分の処理、闇を急ぐ処理、ぐっしょり濡れて救助、赤くバラ肉の断面の霜降りに肉、トロ、買ったんだな、勝てないのはトロの赤みにまるでバラの花咲けた花びらの赤が黒ずみ、人心ではない人の身、しんと冷たいリンゴの芯を朝噛んだ時にこめかみにすでに感じ始めていた。人間やめて人になった。私は人、あなたも人。人心抱えてミジンコッパ、人の視界は狭い。避けられなかったか、避ければいいのにとあなたは言うけれど、言われても世界いっぱいに電車が待ってくる。待ってくれ、待ってくれない。So, 人身事故 is in German Personenschaden. It means when someone commits suicide by the railway and the train stops. You know, how does it call in English in Kentucky?
We don't have to use that.
Okay, you don't have a train. Okay. But you know, the 人身事故 is very official word, so they use it to tell what happened, but not directly. If you need other words, the people begin to think, oh, who was it, who committed suicide, what happened, and there is some sympathy in it. But 人身事故 is very cold word and have nothing to do with human beings. I'm afraid that most of you are so young that you don't know what cassette recorder is. So I show you that. I first encountered the term native speaker in a junior high school English class in Japan. Our teacher said, now let's listen to the pronunciation of a native speaker, and switched on a sturdy black cassette recorder that resembled a family old pad. At first, all we heard from the machine was a cracking noise, but soon it was followed by a voice reading the text from our book. The sound of this language had a surprisingly powerful effect on me. The A of cat opened its jaws like a furious tomcat. The M of mother held a sip of whiskey in its mouth without a word. while the P of pen exploded with impatience. Imitating these sounds was difficult. The cassette recorder had no mouth, so you couldn't see how it was producing the one or the other sound. Even today, the term native speaker makes me think not of a person but of a cassette recorder. Many years later, I had the opportunity to observe a person speaking English more closely. I then realized that to speak English, it was necessary to open one's mouth not just vertically, but horizontally as well. When I first arrived in Germany at 22, I was surprised to find that in every major city, nearly every evening, there was a poet willing to read his poems to an audience. In Japan, poetry readings are rare. I found it just as surprising that on German television, the samurais in Kurosawa's movies spoke German fluently. As did the figures in anime films. Even Lieutenant Colombo, who on Japanese television had spoken only Japanese, now spoke German as if he'd done so all his life. Also, the lieutenant's face remained the same as ever. I had the impression he'd now become another person. I was just as surprised to hear a friend of mine suddenly speaking a different language. Usually, my image of people were based on their voices, their choice of words, and the little pauses between words that made up the rhythm of their speech. But when you speak a different language, both your voice and your speech rhythm differ as well. I wondered whether I really knew this woman or just a cassette tape inside her. Can the body be compared to a cassette recorder in which you can keep changing the cassette? When I was little, one of my playmates showed me a doll that could talk. When the doll was undressed, you could see two little doors in its back. One of them concealed a battery, and the other a tiny cassette containing a recording of the doll's voice. The word to dub is fukikae in Japanese. Fuki means to blow and kae to exchange. A different voice is blown into a body and replaces the old one. Dubbing is a shamanic activity. If, for example, a person wishes to speak with his dead mother, he goes to a shaman who summoned the souls of the dead. The soul of the dead woman enters into the shaman's body and speaks through his mouth. Like a film actor, he lets himself be dubbed. When I hear poetry reading, I think about dubbing and shamanism. To begin with, we have the body of the poet. We have his voice through which we are hearing the poem. And then there is this poem as written text. But what do these three things have to do with one another? When you watch a dubbed movie, you should theoretically be able to notice discrepancy between the lip movements and the voice if you look closely enough. This thought has troubled me for a long time. Like a woman possessed, I stare at the actor's lips, waiting to discover moments where the dubbing does not work. Sometimes I find myself so preoccupied I miss the plot of the movie. What I am hoping to see is a pair of lips standing still while I am hearing a word, or lips lastly in motion, producing inaudible sentences. But dubbing techniques nowadays are so sophisticated, it's practically impossible to find an error. Film and television actors express themselves fluently in languages they don't speak. as if there are no such thing as a language barrier, no division between their voices and bodies. One day I saw an installation that once more drew my attention to the dubbing process. Unfortunately, I've forgotten the artist's name and have been unable to find him on the internet. This was at Art Basel, the international art show held in Basel once a year. A drive-in theater had been set up outside the exhibition center, and on the large screen I saw two cowboys dismounting from their horses and chatting with the reins in their hands. Just a scene from some western, who cares, I thought. You couldn't hear the sound, but even a person like me, who has never seen a western from beginning to end, could easily imagine the sorts of things they were saying. An empty car was parked in front of the screen, and when you got inside and put on headphones, you could hear the cowboys' voices. And what a surprise! The film had been dubbed with philosophical text. A writer who was there with me shouted in delight, "It's Heidegger." The work was perfect. There was no apparent discrepancy between the text and the movement of the cowboy's lips. It's quite possible, in other words, to take a voice from some far-off location and arbitrarily place it in the body of a film actor. To whom does the voice belong? The voice erases the question of who. On the other hand, the voice is often used in democratic society as a metaphor for a person's authentic opinion. You speak of people being given a voice when you are able to assert their political will, and in some languages, such as German, a vote is literally called a voice. When I hear a poetry reading, it only strengthens my impression that the voice is coming from far away or from a person not literally present. You stare at the poet's lips to reassure yourself that you really do have before your eyes the authentic source of the poem. But the more closely you watch poet's lips, the more difficult it is to say where the sound of a poem comes from. So the world literature, the question is it include animals or not? Or is it a 地球文学, the earth literature? And I wrote a book about polar bears, and I quote something that the polar bears are saying about the national borders. For polar bears, national identity has always been a foreign concept. It's common for them to get pregnant in Greenland, give birth in Canada. They raise the children in the Soviet Union. They possess no nationality, no passport. They never go into exile and cross national borders without a visa. The next poem is called A Chinese Dictionary. Because we use also Chinese characters, we, that means Japanese people can understand each letter of them, but we don't express this word in this way, in this combination. So it is quite interesting to translate each letter literally. A Chinese dictionary. A panda bear is known as a big bear cat in Chinese. Sea lion, sea leopard. Guinea pig, pig mouse. Dolphin, pig of the sea. Inkfish is inkfish. Computer, electric brain. Cinema, Institute for Electric Shadows. Vertiginous, in the eyes, innumerable flowers bloom in all their splendor. Faint, twilight of the past. The last poem is called Kurofune. After over 200 years, the isolation of Japan, American ships came to Japan. 4 black ships, Kurofune. So Kuro means black, Kurofune, black ships, Kuru means come. The people were very afraid of the world. They had to open them to the world, but also very excited. So this visual and sound poem express that feeling. You don't need the translation. Do you see 4 ships or not? Yes. The last one is a little bit flat, but so I read from this. むな苦しい村の村の中に苦しい村の中に群れる苦しい村の中に群れる群れが苦しい村の中に群れる群れが群れて黒船が来る黒船がくるくるって黒船がくるくるって回って黒船がくるくるって回って戻って黒船がくるくるって回って戻ってくるって黒船がくるくるって回って戻ってくるって天王星戻って波打仏おだ仏広々のんびりビリでもいい広い
So just maybe 2 questions before we open it up to questions for the audience. One, the first thing is a simple technical one, because you told me earlier that the first thing you read in this section, the Dinshin book, came out of a project of some sort. Can you say something about the background?
Yes. Veronica Shepard, a German artist, made interesting books, art books. For example, one book is a smelling book. Another is okonomiyaki book, that is the Japanese pancake. And this book, it smells like okonomiyaki. So it is in a glass case, and you open it, and it smells like okonomiyaki. And my text about okonomiyaki is printed on it. And this one, she also want to make the book about Jinshinjiko, and it is on process. And the translation was by Margaret Mistani. And I forgot to say who translated into English, right? Most of them are by Susan Bernowski, but others, some were by Bettina Brandt also, and Monica Totten. And Jeffrey Andrews, of course, the person, yeah.
So I mean, that's a much more sinister sort of project to talk about Jishin Jinko. This is not okonomiyaki either. But I also want to talk about that because you mentioned Fukushima in the last set. This has a lot of history weighing on it. I know in the Japanese, your Japanese writing after the earthquake and tsunami and nuclear meltdown in 2011 has gotten much darker and much more dystopian, perhaps. There's a lot more heaviness in there. Can you say something about how the last couple of years writing after 2011 and contemporary times?
To me, it was the nuclear disaster was like, the many problems that Japan had before that appeared in clearly. And it took the images, so it was stronger than the literature, and I thought literature must do it. We must read the present more precisely and intensely, so that we can create the more images than the reality. And my writing has changed in some way, I think.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say dystopian or darker or heavier.
No, it's not
I don't think you think
darker.
that, yeah.
No, it's not darker, because if you really have a problem, political problem or social problem, you cannot be just stay sad. You don't have energy. You must put your brain in full of energy. So you need the power of the language, and it is connected to joyfulness than sadness.
So there's still, you're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun and a lot of the topsy-turvy world sorts of things in these books that are part of it.
Yeah. I had the feeling that we must create new words, or we must discover old words to understand better the situation now. Yeah.
But should we open it to the audience for questions?
Yeah.
I think that, how does this work? If people have questions, I think there are microphones spread around. Question?
Thank you very much for your amazing talk. I want to push what you have just, like in the beginning of your question, mentioned, like how does it feel to speak a language that you do not actually speak? So I want to invite you to comment on that a little bit. Maybe, for example, in another interview you mentioned that Dutch feels like a dream language for you because you speak German.
Yeah.
And then in this talk you mentioned again how you use Italian sounds. So maybe you can give more examples, like how you relate to different languages as a writer and how does it link to your creativity. Thank you.
You know, the dream language is a language that you have the feeling you could understand it, but you cannot. But it is a language, so it is, to me, like the language free from the certain meanings. It's just a language pure. I really love that image of dream language. And Afrikaans was similar to this dream language in South Africa, because I could understand a little, because Afrikaans is connected to Dutch, and Dutch is like German a little bit, and so, but I couldn't really understand. And that kind of dream language always interested me, and it comes again and again in my text, I think. Also, you mentioned the Italian language that I cannot understand, but when I'm in Italy, I had the feeling, of course I understand it. And if you listen to the Japanese language, Japanese poems, maybe something, you can understand something, not the meaning, but something that the language does in its movement or sounds, or the kind of, movement, dance, the dance of the language, not the content.
So is it because that you don't really speak it, so it has more potential for you to escape meaning and to play with it? But does it also influence your relation to Japanese in a sense?
Yes, of course. Because I often read Japanese in the country where nobody understands Japanese. So Japanese become to me also like a dream language that I cannot understand. I must read it as if I could not understand it.
Thanks. There was another question in the back.
Thank you for amazing reading and talk.
And like you, I also moved to Germany from China to Germany when I was 22 years old. And I've been there for 3 years. But until now, I can't read and write and speak German like a native speaker. I have a German friend who's a big fan of you, and she always has always corrected the grammar mistakes in my German essays. And I ever asked her that when you read Yoko Tawada's book, can you recognize that this book was written by a person whose mother tongue language is not German? She said no. And I asked her, when can I write German text like her? And she answered me, when you live in Germany as long as her. So my question is, does the time really matter when you master a language and really write literary text with this foreign language like a native speaker? And is it even necessary to write in a foreign language like a native speaker?
Yeah. But foreignness has also many faces. You know, the German language that is written by foreigners can be very foreign in one way or another way, or it seems very native, but still, if you look closer, there are something that is coming from somewhere else. So, of course, I'm now, I've been in Germany so long that I cannot say that the German language is very foreign to me, but I'm not the scientist about the brain, so it's just a metaphor, yeah? But the Japanese language is take the place in another place in my brain, like the German place. It is not, you cannot never reach this place again, because I'm not a child. This is only possible if you are a child, and this is the mother tongue for me, and German remains always here in another place. But it is still very creative process to change between two languages. To me, it is the most important thing is that you have two or more places in your brain that you can move. If you have only one point, you're stuck.
Right.
Yeah, right? Do you have your Japanese place here? Where
What is a native speaker? Is there such a thing as a native speaker that never makes mistakes in their own language?
Yeah, native speaker is. I wanted to show this to end with English and with E it's German. And this is Chinese plus Wari it's Japanese.
Yes, there's a question back here.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for your really great readings and good discussions. I think this is my first time listening to you speak English, so it's been really fun. So I guess maybe this kind of goes away from just your own work into like bigger problems, but I've been teaching in the US, teaching Japanese literature and popular culture for a few years, and with Trump and everything, I think it's a very special time there, where, I keep on thinking about how, as a sort of literary studies scholar, what I can do. But I wonder, because you work so much with language and difference, and you were talking especially about, post-3/11, what you feel like you could do. So when you come back to Japan sometimes and you see problems here, are there specific things in everyday life that strike you as, for example, like issues Japanese society has with accepting different types of people and that sort of thing, that you sort of want to comment upon? Or is there something more that you want from Japanese literature in general, or something that you would say to up-and-coming sort of Japanese writers? I don't know if that makes sense.
Can you streamline your question?
Do you mean that when I come to Japan 3 times a year mostly, and I see the Japanese society is very different from the European or German society, and is that difference inspired me to writing literature, or that was not the question?
Sorry. I think because as someone who goes back and forth between the US and Japan and other parts in East Asia a lot, I feel like I can relate to some extent in terms of experiencing problems in different languages and seeing things in society that I want to change. And when you were talking about it being post-3/11 and feeling that literature should do something else, I guess to narrow down my question, is there something more that you think Japanese literature should be trying to do to work with different problems of difference in Japanese society right now?
So what is the Japanese literature to issues in contemporary society?
Sorry.
Do you think the Japanese contemporary literature do not write enough about the problem of Japanese society? Is it?
Societal issues, it sounds like. The things that are
I was thinking specifically of problems of difference in terms of like race, for example, or working with different languages and that sort of thing. So not saying that doesn't happen at all, but from your sort of unique perspective, is there something more that you would like to see?
What would you like to see?
I think there are so many writers in Japan, and I'm also in the jury of the young writers and for old writers too. So there are no Japanese problems that I have never read in the Japanese literature. But it does not mean that the people are discussing about these problems enough in the community or at school or somewhere else. So the literature is good enough, but the rest of the society is not.
Good, let's move on to some other, there's see hands.
Excuse me. So I've worked in the past with the German-Russian writer Olga Martinova. Do you know Olga? No? And anyway, she works between German and Russian, so she writes prose mostly in German and then poetry in Russian, and lives in Berlin now. But when she also writes her novels and poetry, they also often take on these sort of strange forms. She works with sort of concrete poetry designs within the text. And the fact that there are these sort of similarities between two writers writing in German, but also between German and a different language. Do you find that contemporary German literature is a good space for this sort of experimentation with language? Is there something in the water in Germany right now that is sort of fostering this sort of play with language, play between languages, and with the form of language itself?
I think there are many interesting poets in German-speaking countries, especially in Austria. But the problem is they are playing with words and they are isolated from the society. The society becomes more and more conservative and they play more radically. And that's so if I have reading in Austria, I have always good audience, but they are not normal people. They are always coming to readings and they are always thinking about art, literature, poetry, but they cannot change the society. The society became worse and worse.
Thank you for this beautiful presentation. I think it's my fourth time to see you live. So like yes, we were in contact recently. My name is Damrosch and I'm from Romania. And I just contacted about Memoirs of Polar Bear, the translation. I wanted to ask you, what is this problematic of face and voice? So you have that short novel called Persona, where a Japanese young woman who lives in Germany, at the end of the novel, places no mask on her face, and also in Verbandungen you wrote that the views, like the gaze people, foreigners, would somehow inscribe a face on your face as a foreigner in another country. But so I felt like that there is a certain fear because of looking differently. But at the same time, yes. So at the same time, in your writings, language and the voice, the sounds that humans produce, they give freedom. So how do you think about this? Like on one side, there is no freedom because of how we look like, but on the other side, there is this freedom of sounds, of languages, even like we might understand them or not. If we do, we can make like parallels and play with words.
Yeah. I think the freedom does not mean you can control it. No, the freedom is, I don't know what it is, but the one image that's very important to me is in the no theater, in Japanese traditional no theater, the actor puts the mask on the face, and it means the soul of the dead people come to this actor, and he speak, his body speak, the voice of the death. So it's not authentic voice of the actor or the author, but the mask, to put on the mask means that you are ready to speak as someone else. And that is sometimes what literature does too. You have the narrator or other characters, and they are not the author himself, but you speak as someone else.
I think mine is kind of a follow-up question. First, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful performance, but also I think I wanted to ask about voice and sort of across genres and media. Do you conceptualize a different relationship to voice, say when you're writing a novel in characters versus the narrator, or perhaps when you write a poem, is it your own voice? Do you create a character for the voice? Do you have different relationships? If you could just speak to that.
Can you make a comment about the different voices?
Yeah. Different voices, yeah. The voices are, it is something that sounds very strong, something that represents one person, it seems to, but it's because it is always come somewhere else. Not only, but some voices come together in one voice, and the poet, especially the poet's voice, is the combination of many voices from the history, from the past, and personal voice, and so on. But if you speak on the court or official, politically, you are responsible for your voice, right? It is your personal responsibility. So you cannot say, I said that, but that was another person who said that. That's maybe a problem. But in the literature, this point that you cannot say that my voice is my voice, it makes the literature interesting.
I've lost track of the microphones. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for your talk. As a follow-up, so your voice is not your voice. I was wondering whether your body is your body. I was thinking specifically of the short story Saint George and the Translator, in which the translator keeps postponing the task of translating a text, and his body has a very physical reaction to the task of translating. He gets all itchy. He has his bones in his skin. I was wondering whether you also had this kind of reaction to translation.
The body is, to me, the very sensible medium for everything that I do. It is, if you read the text and you want to translate it, the feeling that you have to that original text is, maybe if you express it in the language, you can just say, oh, it is interesting, I like it, I don't like it. It's very primitive. But the body speaks much more. Maybe it is, you have on one hand you have a headache, but the other hand your hand is very happy. Or you have the feeling that you become hot, but you don't know why. But your feet are cold, and so the body is always made by many parts, and they don't explain something, but you can feel so many feelings at the same time. Also, you are feeling to the text, so it's very clever to translate with your body together, not only by your head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, you were good, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your talk, and
Thank you so much for your talk, and I have one curious question about readership, because when you perform the reading of your poetry, since I speak Chinese, German, and English, I had totally different experiences, and when it comes to Japanese, I have to consult my friend here because I don't speak Japanese at all. So here's my curious question. So I think you totally create a new type of world literature, but I think, my perspective is you're also kind of expecting or creating a new type of new world literature reader. So my question is, do you have any expected reader, or do you think of readers when you create your poetry? Because I think if you speak different languages, then reading your poetry is totally a different experience. Thank you.
Thank you. In the 80s, I wrote just German text for German people and Japanese text for Japanese people. But then I began to move in the world, and especially at the universities in the United States, I recognize that there are many various people. Some of them understand Japanese but not German, and others understand German and English, and then there are many people who understand only English. But so you can never write for one readership, but the text itself must have the energy that is all of you can access to that, but also even if you don't understand the meaning. And the good thing was also after the reading, the audience began to talk each other, because, hey, you understand Japanese, what does it mean? And that, just like you did. And also and then I thought, also in the monolingual writing in monocultural country, you cannot say that everyone understands the same. Each of you understands something else, and there are always holes or black holes or some white spaces in the literature that you can never really understand. Only even in your mother tongue. So that's the nature of the literature, that each of you understands something else, and nobody can understand everything. And that's why I present this kind of readings in the mixed international.
Thank you.
their occasion or audience.
Maybe one or two more questions?
Sorry, thank you for your presentation. And you say you want to create, make new word for understanding 311.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a very sensitive question. However, what do you mean understanding for you?
Yeah, that's a very good, deep question. It's not enough time. Yeah, but I think there are many questions about March 11, right? Why do people accept such thing like nuclear station? Well, why don't we know in Tokyo that our electric energy are produced there? Why didn't we know that in Tokyo? Well, why there are so many differences of the reception of that nuclear between Japan and Europe and the United States? And what does it mean? And so many questions. And if you use only sentences that you usually use in your everyday life, it is not enough. You need new ideas and new aspect or way of thinking and so on. And so I meant not only a new words, but also the new sentences or new argument figure of writing or new style, new form of discussing and thinking and so on.
We're right at 7.
Oh.
I think we're good. Thank you very much.